PPD, PA rating, booster system, the COLIPA method, the UVA logo. I mean, what is that damn mess? Oh! Bonjour, bonjour, coucou, salut les gens, how are you all doing today? My name is Cyril. I used to be a stem cell researcher for quite some time, and this is why I can tell you about the science behind skincare ingredient. Well, today it will be like the science behind like UV rating, the UVA protection factor. So basically in this video I am going to break down for you all the different, I would say, current methods that exist to know the UVA protection, because it could be very messy, it could also be very tricky and difficult to understand. So before I start, and something that I always forgot to start with is, of course, if you are new, come over here and please consider to subscribe, and don't forget the bell, and also check my two Instagram accounts. I have one in English and one in French. So we are going to start with the Japanese system, and the reasons is because if you look at the history of the UVA protection factor, they were the first one in the 90s to have published like a solid, strong paper to have an equivalent of the SPF. So just as a quick reminder, the SPF, the sun protection factor, is an in vivo experiment done on us as human in lab condition using a UV light, and this UV light has the same UV that you have from the sun, and basically this is the level of protection against a sunburn. A sunburn is triggered mainly by UVB, a little bit also with UVA, but unfortunately, even though you have a high SPF, you do have like some minimal filtration of UVA, but not completely. And guess what? UVA, especially UVA type 1, they are the one who age us a lot, and we have like some very nice data to show that when you have at least a minimum of 1/3 of the SPF in terms of UVA protection, you do have less damage in your skin. And I mean, if you are here, you do want to protect your skin. So basically the Japanese method is very similar to the SPF, but for UVA. And actually it works pretty the same. So it's done on the back where the sunscreen is applied. And instead of using the same light, so basically that contains UVB and UVA, only a UVA source is used. And instead of looking at a sunburn, we look at the darkening of the skin, which is basically the tanning reaction of the skin. And the PPD stands for persistent pigment darkening of the skin, obviously. And what the Japanese have done in the system is that instead of writing the PPD value, so the equivalent of the SPF of an in vivo experiment for UVA, they have used the pluses system, and basically the maximum is 4 pluses. 4 pluses is equivalent of a PPD value of 16 or above. So it just means that when you are buying any Asian sunscreen, this is the same in South Korea. Of course, in Japan, for the other country, I do not know. When you see the PA or 4 pluses, you are guaranteed that the UVA protection will be of 16 or above using the PPD method, which is of course excellent because you have this minimal filtration system. So basically you cannot get like an SPF of 50 plus with, I don't know, a UVA protection of 6, 8, I mean, that would be dreadful. Now, if we move to Europe, and it will be very similar to Australia, there is a requirement that the UVA protection has to be of 1/3 of the SPF. So what I'm always telling you is that for an SPF of 50 plus, if you see the UVA with a circle around, it does mean that the UVA protection will be at least of 20. So higher than the requirement of the 4 pluses from Japan, for example. In Europe, there is 2 methods that are allowed to determine the UVA protection. The first one is the PPD methods, but for ethical reasons, there is a second method that have been developed, which is what we call the COLIPA method, which is an in vitro method that doesn't use us, but that gives the exact same results as the PPD method. The reason is because to use the PPD method, you need to have a certain level of pigment on the skin. So basically you cannot do it on very fair skin like mine. And this is why there is also the in vitro method that is more recommended by the EU, but at the end you have exactly the same results. So for the in vitro method, they use actually less sunscreen than what is used in vivo. This is 1.3 milligrams per centimeter square, but this is used like on a special plastic dish where UVA light bombards basically the sunscreen, but then you have like an algorithm that gives you a similar result. So at the end, you still need the 2 milligrams per centimeter square. So in Europe, when a brand decides to make a sunscreen, they need to use the SPF rating, which is the same also in Asia and in France, because they use the ISO Norma. And for the UVA, a brand has the choice. They can use the COLIPA or the PPD method, or even both of them. And if it is 1/3, you will have like the UVA with a circle. So the last one that I'm going to talk about, and this is a very, very confusing one, this is the booster system. And I know that lots of you have asking me, oh, I don't understand why the P20 that you recommend so much has only 4 stars and not 5 stars. So the boost system is based on the comparison of the absorption of UVA versus UVB. So the closer they are and the more stars you get. So the star system range from 0 to 5, 5 being the maximum. And basically when you have 5 stars, it just means that the UVA absorbance will be very, very close to the UVB absorbance. So it means that if you have, for example, an SPF of 50 plus, most likely you will have a super high UVA protection. However, you can still get 4 stars and not 5 stars, simply because if you have an extremely high UVB absorbance, which is most likely the case with the P20. Let's imagine we have an SPF around 100. If the UVA protection is of 55, for example, of course, the UVB absorbance will be still much higher than the UVA, even though you have an insanely good sunscreen. Another thing that is very problematic with the booster system is that you can buy an SPF of 20 with 5 stars, which only means that you will have a UVA protection that will be closer to the UVB absorption, but still it won't be a good one to use. So you need to keep this in mind. So the last thing is about the American system, which is very, very dreadful. So in the USA, they don't exactly use the ISO Norma for the SPF, but it is basically the same. So it just means that a sunscreen that is SPF 30 in the United States will also be 30 in France, in Europe, also in Asia, and etc. So this doesn't really change. However, for the UVA protection, this is very different. So in the United States, all sunscreen, if I'm not mistaken, have to be broad spectrum. So that means that they have to filter UVA, but there are absolutely no limitations. So it could be a very, very low absorption, so a very low protection basically, or it could be also a very high. Another big problem with the United States is that there is only 2 UVA filters, which is zinc oxide basically and avobenzone, and you cannot even combine them. So you are really like limited in terms of UVA protection. And like I have said, when you are buying a sunscreen, even with a very high SPF, you cannot be guaranteed that the UVA protection will be high, or I would say appropriate, of at least 16 or 20. So basically that's it for today. I hope you have found this video helpful, and that now you understand a little bit more about like the UVA protection factor, which is, I have to say, a mess. Thank you so much for your precious time. If you did like the video, give it a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, to ring the bell. Of course, I have 2 Instagram accounts, one in English and one in French. Again, thank you so much for your precious time, and I will see you next time. Au revoir.